I grew up in a town where you didn't have to lock your bike or your back door. People waved at each other. You knew your neighbors, their dogs, even their routines. My whole elementary school experience was basically lived inside a single hallway. There were maybe 10 or 20 of us per grade, tops, and the same kids stuck around from 1st grade to 8th grade. We knew everything about one another, who got held back, whose parents were splitting up, who still wet the bed, even if nobody dared to say it aloud. We played baseball in the cul-de-sac, rode bikes behind the grocery store, took turns hosting birthday sleepovers with nothing but popcorn, surge, and a rented movie from that dirty old Planet Video. It was the 90s. Our lives revolved around Nintendo 64, Pogs, and who could do the best Jim Carrey impression. My parents trusted me, maybe too much. I was a latchkey kid by the 3rd grade, let myself in, microwaved a Hot Pocket, and watched whatever was on Fox Kids Block until they got home. I didn't get into much trouble. Most of us really didn't, there wasn't much to get into. Sleepovers, though, were how we marked time. Somebody's birthday meant Nerf wars, pizza, and fart jokes until somebody cried and puked. The houses were always safe, clean, and normal. Moms in fuzzy robes, dads who grilled hamburgers, old siblings who left us alone. That's just how it was. So when Mac Wallen invited the whole 6th grade crew over for his birthday sleepover, we all figured it'd be the same deal. A movie, maybe some late night junk food, somebody's hand in a bowl of warm water to see if they'd piss themselves. Because, well, that's just how they always go. Mac was new. He and his older brother Sam had moved into town that summer. Their house was in the dumpier part of the neighborhood where the roads weren't striped and half the lawns were just dirt patches. Sam was in 8th grade, but he didn't seem to like it. He was tall and greasy and had this mullet. All his shirts were missing sleeves and he had this twitch in his jaw like he was chewing something invisible. Even when he wasn't talking, he looked like he was about to spit. He didn't go out of his way to be mean, but nobody wanted to be near him. There was just something off about him. Mac, on the other hand, was different. Kind of funny, kind of crazy, a wild card. He'd say anything, try anything, and he didn't seem to care what people thought about him. That made him exciting in a way, especially to a bunch of bored 12-year-olds. He was like a free pass to mischief. Everybody wanted in on it. So when he handed out invitations, these cheap little printouts with monster trucks on them, we all said yes, of course. Every single last one of us. But of course, because you're listening to my story, we had no idea what we were walking into. We got off the bus late that Friday, backpacks slung over our shoulders, talking loud, acting tough. Mac was leading us onto the porch with that wide grin, crooked front teeth showing. His house, or maybe trailer, it was hard to tell, was sad low and sagging, like it had given up completely. There were 2 busted lawn chairs in the front and crushed beer cans sitting in the windowsill. One of the shutters hung by a single hinge. Sam stood there in the doorway, arms crossed, chewing on a toothpick. He didn't say anything, just watched us file inside, one by one. Inside, the place smelled like wet laundry and burnt grease. The living room carpet was a weird shade of gray that crunched when you stepped on it. Mac's mom came out from the kitchen, smiling at us. She had these sharp cheekbones and was wearing a skimpy pink tank top. No bra, nipples poking through, which made half the boys go red in the face. She handed out paper plates with cake already on them and said, "Y'all have fun tonight, okay?" Then disappeared back down the hall. A minute later, we heard a car door slam and then the rumble of an engine. Mac turned to us and said, "They're going to the bar. We got the whole house to ourselves." And for some reason, that didn't sit right with me. I'd never been left alone at a sleepover before, not without a parent at least within yelling distance. A few of the other boys hesitated too, looking at each other, but nobody said anything. No one wanted to be the baby that called their mom in the moment. And at first it was fine. Loud music, sugar, junk food. We played truth or dare, shot rubber bands at each other, tried to wrestle inside this cramped hallway. Sam hung around, not saying much, just grinning whenever somebody got hurt or fell too hard. Around 9, Max said he had something better than any kind of movie. He led us into the back room where he shared with Sam, pulled open a wooden chest by the bed. Inside that box were stacks of tapes, mostly unlabeled. Everyone immediately started hooting and nudging at each other. He slid a tape into the VCR and turned the little TV on. The screen filled with grainy footage. Somebody was filming in a bedroom, shaky cam style. And right away I knew it wasn't a movie. It was real. Mac's mom was on the bed, totally naked, hair longer than, but definitely her. His dad, or somebody who looked like him, was standing behind her. And they weren't alone. A few of the boys laughed nervously, but the room had gone cold. No one was really breathing anymore. Sam stood behind us, arms crossed, and watched us watch the movie. "You like that, huh?" he said. "My dad used to tape everything." I wanted to leave right then, but I didn't know how to say it. Mac was grinning like it was just a joke. "That's just one of them. You want to see the rest?" He held up another tape in front of us. "No, dude, we're good," somebody muttered, but it was drowned out completely. Next came the toys, pulled out of a drawer in the nightstand inside their parents' room. Rubbery, oily things that smelled faintly of latex and sweat. One looked like a dog toy dipped in Vaseline. Mac tossed it to one of the boys, who caught it and dropped it like it was on fire. And just when we thought we'd hit the bottom, Sam pulled out this small wooden box from underneath the bed. He clicked it open, and inside was a revolver. Real, heavy, and shiny. The metal looked clean, like it'd been oiled recently. He held it up and said, "This is my dad's. Ain't it beautiful?" He pointed it at the ceiling first and then at one of the boys. "Bang," he said really quickly and loud. Everybody flinched. Mac laughed like we were a bunch of girls. "It's not loaded," he said, but his voice cracked when he said it. Sam walked around the room, slow pressing the barrel against foreheads, one after the other. I could feel my stomach folding in on itself. The boy next to me was shaking. When the gun got to me, I couldn't move, I couldn't breathe. Then I felt that cold metal kiss my skin. Sam grinned at me, clicked the hammer back, and then whispered, "What if?" And then he moved on. After that, the night completely had turned. The games stopped being games, and Sam kicked the family dog, a scruffy, sick-looking mutt named Jagger, right in the ribs for barking loud. Mac caught this mouse in a shoebox, then dumped it down the garbage disposal. Somebody said don't, but it was too late. The whir of the machine, the sound it made, was blended alive. We all stood there just watching silently. Sam opened up the microwave and pulled out this small garden snake out of an old fish tank. Mac was laughing, but his eyes didn't match. They looked flat, almost like he wasn't really there. I turned away though. I didn't want to watch this one. The last straw came when they lit the neighbor's trash can on fire. We all crept outside trying to be quiet, but Sam was spraying lighter fluid and giggling to himself. The flame shot up fast, and he danced around it, bare feet on the pavement. I looked at the rest of the boys. One was crying, one looked like he was ready to throw up. The fun was gone, long gone. This wasn't even mischief anymore. This wasn't even rebellion. It was pure madness to me. I slipped back inside and grabbed my backpack, laced up my shoes with my shaking hands. My heart was pounding so loud I couldn't hear anything else. I opened up the front door, stepped off into the dark, and didn't look back. Not even once. The streetlights buzzed overhead. The night felt endless, and I just started walking. I didn't run, even though I wanted to. Every part of me screamed to just get away from there fast, but I didn't. I walked, one foot in front of the other, all the way down that cracked sidewalk, past parked cars and silent houses with normal lives behind the curtains. I think I even whispered the Lord's Prayer at some point, or maybe it was just some song that I'd heard on the radio. My brain didn't feel like it was working right. It felt like the world had shifted slightly now, like everything was tilted, off-center and shameful. My house was 8 blocks away, and each block felt like a mile itself. Every gust of wind made me flinch, and I kept thinking Sam was behind me the whole time, or Mac, or even worse, somebody had followed me out of the TV screen, something from that grainy, grimy tape. Some man with a camera and a mask and a laugh like gravel. I made it home just after 11. My parents were in the living room watching the news. My mom was knitting and my dad was drinking tea. I opened up the door and stepped inside, and they looked up like I was just back from prison. My mom immediately said, "What's wrong?" I didn't answer. I dropped my backpack and just stood there. I must have looked like hell because she was off the couch and at my side in seconds. "Honey, what's wrong?" I started crying, not loud or blubbering, just quiet, whole body. My dad stood up confused, and I couldn't get the words out fast enough. I told him about the gun, about the tapes, about the dog, the snake, the fire. I told him everything except for the parts that I didn't fully understand. The way Sam looked at us, the way Mac laughed without even blinking or thinking twice. My mom held me so tight I could barely breathe. My dad turned the TV off and just said nothing for a really long time. The next morning, everything happened pretty quick. My parents called the school called the police, and a couple of the other boys' parents had already called in too. Apparently, one of the kids ran home in the middle of the night. Another one woke up screaming. It didn't take long for the Wallen place to be crawling with cops. I didn't go to school that day. None of us did, actually. Rumors flew around fast, and Sam got sent away, Mac got suspended. Their parents were under investigation for all kinds of things. The tapes were confiscated, so was the gun. Animal control took the dog, though I doubt he lived much longer after that night. The Wallens didn't stick around as well. A for sale sign went up the next week, and by the time Halloween had rolled around, the house was already boarded up. Nobody moved in after them either. Last I heard, it got condemned a few years later, torn down and then replaced by a strip of gravel and weeds. Nothing grows there now either. Makes me wonder if anything else happened there. My friends and I didn't really talk about it much after this, not really. Everybody who was there that night, me and the other boys, we stayed close for a while after. I guess trauma kinda does that to you. But by the end of the 8th grade, things had changed. A few moved away, a few fell in with rougher crowds, and one kid got picked up for theft his junior year. Saw in the paper. No one was the same after that night. As for me, I turned quiet, still went to school, obviously, still smiled in my pictures, but something in me curled up and died that night. I don't do sleepovers anymore, I don't go to parties, I don't trust anybody who talked way too much shit. I always check my doors, I always listen for the click of a lock. I became a bit of a hermit, and honestly, I kind of prefer it this way. I only ever went to one sleepover in my entire life. One. And that was plenty. It wasn't like my parents were super strict or even religious or anything. They just wanted to know the people that I was staying with, and after what happened that night, they made damn sure I never stayed the night at anybody's house again. It was 5th grade. The kid was Tommy Jurgens. Everybody liked Tommy. He was this little wiry dude with a loud mouth and this fake confidence that somehow worked for him. He knew every cheat code for every PlayStation game and could spit like 8 feet straight up in the air, then catch it back with his mouth. That kind of kid. Yeah, baby. We thought he was cool, but we didn't really know Tommy, not the way we thought we did. It turns out most of what made him cool was just him being raised by a pack of absolute lunatics. We'd see hints occasionally, like how he never brought lunch, just dollar bills and scratchers, or how he said these weird grown-up things, stuff like, "My mom's old man just got out again," or "Uncle Mike's got court in Flagstaff." All that kind of skated over our heads back then, just Tommy being Tommy. He'd been in our class since 2nd grade, and even though he didn't have a ton of close friends, we all wanted to be around him. His life just seemed electric and different. So when he handed out birthday invites on a notebook paper, drawn in Sharpie and riddled with spelling mistakes, I still said yes without even asking my folks first. They weren't thrilled when I showed them, but Tommy's name rang a familiar enough bell that they gave in. I think my mom called his mom and talked for a full 90 seconds before saying it was okay. "All right, but if anything feels off," she said, "you can call us. I mean it." That Friday came. We were all rolled out the bus, hyped out of our minds. Tommy lived on the edge of town in this saggy house with 4 trucks parked out front and 2 boats in the yard. Neither seemed to be seaworthy though. Their garage was open, and I swear to God there was already a drum kit being set up. Real drums. A couple of guys carrying amps inside. We hadn't even taken off our backpacks yet either. Tommy met us on the porch with that usual grin and said, You guys are gonna lose your freaking minds." And he wasn't lying. I remember walking in and thinking it was more like a party at my uncle's house than a birthday thing. There were adults already there, friends of Tommy's parents, I guess, all drinking and smoking and hanging out in the living room, laughing and didn't take notice of us at all. There were stacks of beer on top of the kitchen table, and the hallway smelled like somebody had burnt popcorn and covered it with weed smoke. Still, in the moment, I think we were just far too young to process what was wrong. At first, it just seemed like chaos. Loud music, cold sodas, big yard. We honestly figured that we stepped into the coolest birthday ever, but we had no idea. The backyard was the size of a football field, or at least it felt like it. There's a rusted trampoline with a bent leg that tilted to one side when more than 2 kids jumped on it, and somebody had duct taped an old dartboard to the trunk of a dying mesquite tree. The ground was patchy dirt and crabgrass, with empty beer cans littering the corners. A cooler full of orange sodas and RC Cola sat in the middle like a prize, and everybody tore into it. Then the band showed up, and I'm not kidding, an actual local band. 4 dudes in ripped jeans and dark sunglasses, lugging gear across the lawn onto a piece of plywood propped up on cinder blocks. One of them wore a vest with no shirt underneath, called themselves Code 3, and the lead singer yelled, "Let's wake this town up," inside a mic and screeched that made all the dogs in the neighborhood bark immediately. They kicked it off with "You give love a bad name," and every 5th grader in that backyard lost their minds. Even the shy kids were pogoing like it was a real concert. We were 11 years old, drinking sodas, hurling darts at a tree, and listening to a live Bon Jovi cover band, while a drunk guy that we'd never met grilled hot dogs on the porch. It was insane and also kind of amazing. As the sun dipped and the bug zapper came to life, the mood shifted though. The adults were getting sloppy. They weren't just a few beers deep anymore. There were bottles of liquor going now. I saw a guy pour something clear into a red Solo cup and then stumble into the garage. Inside, a few of the other guys, dudes in their 20s I guess, were playing darts for money, real cash laid out on a washing machine like a poker table. Tommy's dad, or the guy that we thought was his dad, was this thick, sweaty guy in cargo shorts with a big chain around his neck. He was barking at somebody named Shane about cheating. "You crossed the line, you dumb shit. I saw you," he said. Shane was this lanky, red-faced, holding a dart like he was about to throw it into somebody's eye. They had a second dartboard in the garage where the grown-ups were playing. We were all just standing there. I remember one of the kids, Tyler, saying, "Should we get out of here?" Before we could move though, Shane threw the dart at the board and missed it completely. It thunked into the wall, and that's when Tommy's dad shoved him hard. Shane staggered, knocked over a milk crate of tools, and then came up swinging. The next 10 seconds were pure noise. Metal clattering, fist hitting meat, glass breaking. One guy got slammed into a water heater so hard it sounded like a gunshot. We just stood there, frozen. A few kids even started crying. The fight broke up after Tommy's mom, who'd been chain smoking on the back porch, came in and screamed at both of them to knock it off. She had this voice like salt and vinegar. I watched her dig her nails into Tommy's dad's arm and then drag him out by his very skin. "Party's back on," she slurred, and the band started another song like nothing had even happened. After that, the lines between what was fun and what was wrong began to blur really quickly. They busted out drugs not long after. Not weed in a discreet little joint either. We're talking actual drugs. A coffee table in the living room got cleared off, and Tommy's mom dumped out a sandwich bag full of greenish bud and what looked like a literal pile of white powder. It was almost like watching a movie. I thought it was flour at first, but it definitely wasn't. Some guy named Zeke started chopping it up with a Blockbuster card. I remember him saying, "Don't worry, this ain't coke, it just got some go fast," like it made it okay. Another adult, I think Tommy's aunt, was lighting up a glass pipe and singing along to Panama. Tommy came walking in the garage with this big stupid grin and a joint in his mouth, like it was candy. We all just stared at him and nobody said a word. "Dude, hit this," he said, offering it up to Cody Anderson. Cody shook his head and stepped back like it was a snake. Tommy just shrugged and took another puff. He coughed like a dying animal and laughed until he fell over. At that point, I was still having fun in this weird high-wire way. We'd snuck into an R-rated movie, and now we were holding our breath, hoping to not get caught. It was insane, yeah, but it didn't feel dangerous, at least not yet. We ended up in the backyard, sitting on lawn chairs, drinking warm soda, and watching Code 3 finish their last set. The adults were blitzed, falling over, laughing, forgetting their own kind of name drunk. Somebody was dry heaving in the bushes too. I was telling a ghost story to the other kids when we heard yelling again, same voices as before. Tommy's dad and, of course, Shane. "You shorted me," somebody screamed. "Nah, you just fucking suck at darts, Shane." Then another crash, a scream, and people running. We all stood up. A couple of kids took off toward the side yard. The rest of us crept around the garage, doing our best to be quiet. I could already feel the air shift, the way everything got really quiet really quickly. Shane was on the ground, blood on his shirt. Tommy's dad had a knife in one hand, still open. Not a kitchen knife either, one of those folding ones with a knuckle guard. Shane was moaning and gripping his side. Then somebody screamed. And then, bang, bang, bang. 3 shots, real ones, close and deafening. Screaming erupted everywhere. Tommy's mom was laying on the lawn crying. One of the band guys had tackled the dude with the gun and then got it away from him. No one got hit, thank God, but there were shell casings on the ground. The spell was now broken though. This wasn't a party anymore. It was a war zone. The cops showed up in under 10 minutes, sirens blaring, lights throwing red and blue across the lawn like a crime scene disco. I was still in the backyard, clutching my shoes and shaking so bad I could barely even untie the laces. Cody Anderson was crying and wouldn't stop saying over and over, "Did we just get shot at?" They herded us onto the sidewalk, told us to sit down and not to move. The neighbors were outside now, talking to the officers, pointing at the house like it was all normal. A woman wrapped up in a blanket asked me if I was okay. I just nodded back, but I wasn't, not even close. Parents started showing up, headlights rolling down the street one after another. My mom's face when she spotted me, I'll never forget it. She didn't even ask questions. She just wrapped me up in her arms and held me like I just came back from war. Tommy's dad got cuffed and loaded up into a cruiser. Shane got hauled off into an ambulance, conscious but bleeding through a wad of paper towels somebody had slapped on his ribs. A few other adults were questioned right there in the driveway. One guy took off before the cops could even get his name, just vanished off into the night with a backpack full of God knows what. We didn't end up going back to school on Monday, and neither did Tommy. Rumors, of course, flew around. The gun was stolen, the white powder was meth. One of the band members was an ex-con. I didn't care, I just wanted to forget it all, but honestly, I couldn't. None of us could. My mom told the school I wasn't allowed to sleep over at anybody's house again. "Not until you're out of my house and paying your own bills," she said to me, and that was that. I didn't argue. Last I heard, Tommy and his family had moved down the globe to somewhere near Yuma. He never came back. And just like I said at the beginning, I never stayed the night at another kid's house again.